Okay guys, so for this one I'm in Photoshop again, and I just found this picture online of a flower. I'm just going to show you how to replace the color or change the color of the flower. So image size. This is a very large image. As you can see, it's 41 inches by 52, but only 72 resolution, which is fine. I'm going to make this just a little smaller, so a more manageable size. So 12 inches, sorry, 10 inches, 11, 9. So now we're over 300 resolution. Alright, so if we want to change this from a purple flower to any other color, first we have to select that kind of purplish color of the flower. So again, we could use our selection tool, or our lasso tool here to select it. I'll start here, and I'll actually start with this magic wand tool, which is a good tool for selecting. So it selects by the color of different things. So the tolerance here, usually it'll default to 1, and that means it's very sensitive. So it's only selecting 1 pixel of each color at a time. So that's going to take a long time. And again, these same settings, you want to make sure that this one is selected right here, because that will add to the selection. Okay? So I'm slowly adding, but that's going to take forever. So I'm going to turn this tolerance up. So let's go up to like 33. So now this starts selecting bigger chunks of this color. Now we're getting bigger selections going on. Okay, we can turn this up even higher and see what happens, up to 55. There, so we're getting close now to having all of those, the entire flower selected. So I'll get most of it with that magic wand tool. Then I'll switch back to the selection tool, and I want to make sure everything is covered on here. So then it's just kind of using the magic wand tool, the selection tool, that quick mask mode we went over in the last video. So as you can see, this higher resolution is definitely helpful. You want to be over 300 for your resolution, so you can zoom in, get very close to selecting these, just the colors you want. And that higher resolution also helps that magic wand tool work a little bit better. I'm just going to select this whole thing. I think I want to get rid, I'll show you guys that. I want to get rid of, I don't want that little green dot in the middle selected. Alright, here. So I use these selections for all sorts of things in Photoshop. You can use these selections just for dropping in color. So you know, if I wanted to come in here and drop in one flat color over everything, let's turn that up. I can do that. I don't have a specific need for that on this project, but you can do that. I use this for coloring illustrations, so I'll make different selections in an illustration or a drawing, select the different parts of it with my lasso tool here, and then just fill in different parts of it. Alright, so we're pretty close here. And I can go back to that quick mask mode here, zoom in a little bit more. So here, switching to the brush tool, I want to cover up this little bit of green that's showing through. Now eraser tool, I want to make sure that the whole flower is uncovered. It's a little hard to tell on this because the flower is kind of that pinkish purple, and the color for this quick mask mode is red, so it's a little hard to see. So again, just be careful with these selections, and if it's something major in something that you're doing, you do want to be really careful with these selections and make sure you get it exactly right. But since this is just a demo, I will leave some of these imperfect here. Again, for this quick mask mode, I'm just switching back between the brush, paintbrush, and the eraser until I get that selection correct. Okay. So there's no like one easy way to get these selections, but it just takes a little bit of time. The more you do, the easier it'll become of seeing exactly what tool. Do I want to use the lasso tool? Do I want to use quick mask? Do I want to use the magic wand to get selections? Zoomed in a little too much there. So you can zoom in, you know, super close here. But usually you don't need to be that close. So if you're around this size, this should be able to get you the amount of detail you need. Okay, I'm going to exit quick mask mode, just clicking down here. Alright, so I want to get rid of that little section, that little green dot in the middle. So I'm going to switch back to the lasso tool. So right now, as you notice, there's a little plus sign by my lasso tool, so that just means it's adding things to the selections as I make more selections. But if I want to get rid of part of a selection, I just hold Option on a Mac, and it's probably Alt on Windows, I believe. I'm just holding Option, drawing around that, and then it will get rid of that little selection there. Okay. So now if I just want to, oh, there's another little point up here. So now to just change this color, now I can go into that image adjustments. I can do any of these adjustments and they will just affect the flower. Okay. Another thing that's nice to do, if you have a selection that you're going to use over and over, so if I want to save this selection for the flower, you go to Select, Save Selection. And I'll call that flower. So now this selection, I'll hit OK here. That selection is going to be saved. So even if I deselect it or I do a bunch of other stuff to the photo, then I want to get that selection back. Go to Select, Load Selection, Flower, and then that's back. All right. So let's image adjustments, hue saturation. So let's adjust that. Okay, so there's a pink flower if we want that. Or yellow, orangish, green, whatever color we think looks kind of interesting. Let's go with kind of that pinkish. So now I'm turning up the saturation, turning up the lightness. All right, that's a little too much. Just keep messing around with that till it looks good. All right, deselect is Command D to get rid of that selection. And there we have that new new color for a flower. Okay, so let's load that selection back in there. Load selection, flower. All right, so now this flower is selected, as you can see here. If I draw with my brush tool, it will only fit inside of that selection. Okay. But if I want to flip the section and have just the background selected, which can be a nice thing to do, you can go Select Inverse. Select Inverse. Now that switches, so now just the background's selected. So now if I draw, it will only be in the background. So this might be a point where we want to go back with one of those filters. Blur. Okay, so there's already a blur in this background. So as you can see, it's changing right here on the screen as I adjust this. So maybe we want it even more blurred than that. There we go. So now we've selected the entire flower using the lasso tool, magic wand, and the quick mask selection. Change the color of the flower and then save that selection, and then done the inverse of that selection to then make manipulations to the background. Let's adjust the color of the background here. I just brought up this hue saturation. It's a Command U. So maybe we want this to be a different color as well. That's kind of weird, but maybe that's what we want to go with. There. So we've just changed that photo. So even if you get photos online, there are ways to manipulate them so they don't look the exact same as the online version. But again, make sure all the photos that you're working with are closer to that 300 DPI.